Assalamu alaikum. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah. I'm going to summarize the technological developments related to dawah and teaching. The first subject was literary property rights. So these rights are actually protected and it is not allowed to violate them. Nobody should be distributing another person's material against their wishes. However, it is allowed to distribute what is considered allowed by custom, by urf, as well as by law, as long as it's in line with intellectual property concepts. Otherwise, it's not allowed. Number two, existence in virtual reality. When you wear virtual reality goggles, you can see things with a complete 360-degree angle and you use three-dimensional technology. In and of itself, virtual reality is a neutral technology. There are some conditions though. Condition number one is that the content must be legal, it must be safe from adverse health effects, and the usage of that technology should not lead to addiction. Another one is that when there's the experience of virtual reality, when it's free from all those warnings, it's generally going to be allowed, but that doesn't mean that it's recommended to actually utilize it. The levels of the harm is going to vary depending on the harm and the benefit, and it's going to vary based upon its permissibility or impermissibility. When you are utilizing virtual reality, you cannot engage in any other forbidden act like virtually engaging in fornication in a virtual world, or consuming alcohol, or any other type of practices that would normally be forbidden in real life. The reason is because it may actually be a means for you to do those things in the real world, and therefore they're going to be prohibited. The next category are fatwas that are distributed on the internet, and to what extent do you have a responsibility that's fulfilled by looking at those fatwas. So the default rule is to turn to the mujtahideen, which are the scholars who have the capacity for juristic reasoning, and they're able to give fatwas and they're qualified to give fatwas. If those people are not available, then you turn to the next best qualified people, and so on and so forth. But if it's known that somebody is ignorant, or somebody is a sinner, or you're not really sure who this person is, then you should not turn to a person like that for getting a fatwa. So seeking fatwa, you should be very careful to determine who, to figure out who you ask from for a fatwa. And you should only trust people who are religious and who are qualified and capable to be giving fatwas. When it comes to websites are actually considered legal personalities. So the same principles will apply to them as they do when it comes to a real life personality. So if you're aware that a certain website has good quality, if there is a person of knowledge or people of knowledge are on there, and these are reliable websites, then there's nothing wrong with relying on those websites for fatwas. But if they're not, then you shouldn't utilize them. So these modern means of communication that we utilize today, they should not be become a cause for there to be a disconnect between a direct relationship with a real person of knowledge who is qualified, and the amount of love that you're going to build when you actually have real life interactions with people. It's not a substitute for that. So always keep that in mind. There's no harm in learning the Quran or any other Islamic sciences from apps or from artificial intelligence apps that have been approved and checked by trustworthy scholars. But you have to keep in mind that learning directly from individuals is a better and the best and ideal way to receive Islamic knowledge. And lastly, on this subject, if you emphasize what has already been stated by Amja, the people who are seeking fatwas should not become excessive in moving between one scholar and another scholar in order to just escape and find the easiest fatwa that you can possibly find. this will actually result in a type of obsessive compulsive behavior that's going to cause harm and difficulties for people, and it's going to mess with the not only the intention of the person but also with their connection with Allah. The next category is the attitude of people of knowledge and how they should behave towards the slips of scholars when scholars make mistakes. So slips of the scholars refers to mistakes or errors that a scholar can make, either in their personal reasoning or in some paper that they're writing or some fatwa that they're issuing. But overall, their methodology of that scholar and the creed, the aqidah of that scholar is going to be sound. So the scholars have agreed that slips of scholars should not be relied upon. So you should not utilize when they make a mistake. You should not use that mistake as an evidence. You don't take them into consideration when you're discussing different opinions and say there's an opinion of such and such scholar, because they were not a result of proper Shareeah reasoning. They only came about because the evidence was hidden to that scholar, or that scholar did not come across that evidence in that case. So you should also never disgrace trustworthy people of knowledge due to a slip that they may have made, or even a few slips that they have made, and you should not be spreading those mistakes around. In fact, you should refute the mistake but still respect the position of those scholars without going to extremes or exaggerations. And lastly, watching films that portray sacred religious figures is disallowed. The scholars have agreed that it's prohibited to portray or show a picture of angels, prophets, or the mothers of the believers. As for anyone else, it is a matter of ijtihad, of juristic discussion and reasoning, and there's a difference of opinion among scholars. When you watch something though, it's actually more flexible than portraying or producing that content. Not everything that's prohibited to be portrayed or to be pictured is prohibited to be seen or to be watched. So on this issue, it's going to be determined by weighing the benefits and the harms. It is exempted to watch something if it's expected that's going to be beneficial. So you're allowed to do that as long as it's not anything that would encourage doing something that is forbidden in Islam. A lesser harm can be overlooked if it's encased in something of greater benefit. I hope this video has been helpful to you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.